All right, so go ahead and come in as you guys get your pizza. I'll go ahead and start. Just a couple quick things that we mentioned last time, since it's been about a month and a half. Not going to review it all, just going to highlight the couple things. We talked about creating a survey database and verifying that your coordinate systems were set correctly. So please, when you do create survey databases, make sure your coordinate system is set. Thing you want to see is US survey feet. We talked a little bit about doing an all points CSV file and import event versus all the individual CSVs and import events. As we discussed, there still may be a need to do all the individual import events because of our stringing. So just keep that in note. For that reason, you may want to have two survey databases, one for your all points and a separate database for all your individual import events. We also unveiled the new electrical trench section blocks. So, has anybody used those yet? Feedback?
Great.
Great. Any modifications?
We already talked about it.
All right. Let me know as you guys use those. They're not perfect. So by any means, you guys need to catch some things that aren't behaving quite right. There's a ton of blocks there to modify, so they should all be pretty good, but just in case, let me know. And that's where they're all located. They're not actually in any of the template files. They are located in your tool palette. Let me know if you guys have issues loading things in the tool palette. This is kind of like your lifeblood in terms of accessing all of our resources. So that's the block that we were talking about last week and all the dynamic properties to it. And then kind of the last thing that I want to highlight from last time was all of our gas blocks and that updated tool palette as well. There's plan versus profile, existing versus proposed, and on the pipes itself, there's terminated versus continuous. If you need a continuous part, I'll just show you real quick on that. So your pipes here, you've got existing and proposed for both plan and profile. The difference between the plan and profile is the plan uses the center line as its control versus your profile holds the top of pipe as your control. So if we bring one in real quick. We'll bring a profile one in. So you just click on the tool palette, wait a second, click on your plan view. So if you look at this one, all the control is based off of your center line. So you've got a lengthen parameter and a rotate parameter. It's all based off of your center line, as well as the sizes itself. And then of course here's the terminated versus continuous end. And then the sizing parameters, if we change this, it shrinks around the center line or expands on the center line. First, the one in the profile, we change the sizing on the one called the profile. It's going to hold the top because that's what's being profiled. Just note those minor differences when you use that in the gas jobs. And again, I show everybody this stuff because I think there's application and potential for all our verticals and all our groups. All right, last slide. Done. New information. This isn't the first time that it's popped up, but it's popped up to a point where we need to start addressing it. When we have multiple job numbers associated with a project, we want our CAD files to live at one location only, and that's going to be the first job number that's created, or your main job number. Be sure that you don't distribute files to 5 different job numbers on our system. It creates a headache for just about everybody working on the project. Possibly the main offenders are when you get survey data. So when you make your request to the survey managers or the survey crews, make sure you tell them what job number to put the files under. There's the reason why we have these multiple job numbers for the same project is just for contracts. All right. We need to make sure that the data is being housed at one location and one location only, and then you can bill your time to as many different job numbers as you want, but the data itself needs to be stored at one location. A couple new things to mention. We've got a couple new template files. The first being EXUT C3 file. So if you create a new drawing or open in the template drawing or folder, you'll notice that there's EXUT C3 file now. The reason for this is just to kind of streamline the EXUT, cut back on some of the layers, number of layers, make it a little bit cleaner, a little bit nicer to use. Your EXUT does not have pipe networks in it, does not have some of the Civil 3D objects that you would need in the C3 file. So you'll notice that difference. EXUT is a little cleaner. If you want to start modeling your existing utility pipe networks, you're going to need to do it in the C3 template. Just note that. And this is the EXUT template now. There you'll see there's a couple things added to it. The first being this little block here of existing storm drain structures. So those are all on existing storm drain block names and layers. You'll probably not use the profile ones in this drawing, but you will need to use the planimetrics for those junction structures and catch basins. The other thing that's kind of new to this file is just a little bit of how we draft our existing utilities. I feel it's really important that we start distinguishing, or at least identifying, the source of the information of the lines that we're drawing. So to kind of streamline that process, there's this block here that kind of specifies basically the line work and layer names of the things that you're going to be drawing. So you got all your main utilities. You'll notice you have an EXEC record and an EXEC paint mark. So if it's a paint mark that we pick up out in the field, it's going to go on the EXEC PM layer. If it's something that we're drawing in based off of record plans, it's going to be on EXEC record. So just to kind of help distinguish where this data came from, this is the kind of the layer convention that is being proposed. You'll notice that there is a slight color variation in the layers. If it's paint mark, think of it as it's on the surface. It's going to be a little bit more visible, so it's a little brighter on the layer color. Any questions regarding that? Any comments?
What about pothole information?
So pothole information, that's a really good question. I'm going to get into potholes a little bit. Right now we don't have a specified layer for them. If you guys want one, we can discuss it. The question becomes, you take a pothole at one point, for what distance then would you switch that line work to that pothole layer? Because it's really just a point, so it's really hard to denote in your EXUT base file. However, there is something that I will be proposing and showing here for pothole information.
And
yeah,
what about the besides potholes, because those are another level of accuracy, but we don't have the name of the utility embedded in the line type. Are we just doing?
So we should. I don't know if I got to that in this file yet. It also could be a scale issue there. So the next thing I wanted to show you is you have that in plan view, right? You have that block that shows you all the layers and layer names. You also have a layer filter here that will limit your layer manager to just those layers to help you assist you guys in drafting EXUTs. So you don't have to sort through 300 plus layers. You've got 24 layers here that you can easily identify. Those line types are all set.
Okay.
So I would imagine
You just got a scale factor.
that I just got a scale factor. That's because I'm kind of drawing these blocks at 1:1, so that's a pretty small length. So there's your sewer. So yes, if you draw them at scale, they will show up. keep in mind that all the line types have been updated. I've gotten a couple questions regarding the line types. This is basically how your line type should pretty much look. There's two versions of the line types. There's dashed, which is being what is represented here, where you have dashed lines between the callouts, and then a continuous line type that will be a continuous line between the callouts. And those text callouts should be spaced about every 2.5 inches. All right, so my scale is 40, so it's at 95-ish. I didn't do an exact measurement, but that's about how often we want that text to appear. About every 2.5 inches in paper space is about what kind of looks good. Agreed on good. So just kind of be sure that your files represent that. If you have something goofy going on in your file, you can always load your line types. LT for line type, load, and you're going to browse to the file. Like anything that you load, you want to make sure that you're loading it from the Q drive, because that's our network standard location. Then we can pick the SD line types, and here are the utilities, both the continuous and dashed. Previously they were proposed existing, but some people differ on how they want to show existing utilities. So rather than proposed and existing, it's continuous and dashed, depending on what your specific project manager wants to see on existing utilities.
And so all of these are, you've got varying colors. Are they also going to come out as varying shades of gray on the plans?
So that's a good question. So right now, all your utilities are varying colors to help you draw these utilities, right? When you go and XREF this file in, you're probably going to want to change these layers so that these utilities plot a little faded back, a little screened. NV5 standard for that is pretty much color 22. Obviously, if we set all these utilities to 22 in your utility base, it's going to be very hard to distinguish what you're drawing. So just keep that in mind, that the colors in your utility base are set this for basically readability as you develop your base. When you XREF this drawing in, you're going to want to do some layer control and layer management so that they plot according to whatever CTB you're using and what you're trying to highlight. Yes, Mark?
And in order for that to be retained, you need to set this retained to 1 in your XREF drawing. So the drawing you're XREFing into, it should be out of the box set to 1, but make sure it is. Because anything you change with it not set to 1, if it's set to 0, it's basically a bitmap variable. If it's set to 0, anything you change in that gets wiped away when you exit.
So just be aware of that variable. It's retained right there. Should be set to 1. All right, so that's, what's that?
And where is north?
Ignore that thing. That thing is the bane of my existence. I've changed that thing thousands of times in my career. This is how you would actually change it.
It might be good to show everyone because, again, it is a fight, but...
Yeah, I personally hate this view cube. I hate it. If it was up to me, I would disable it on everybody's computer. I always use the UCS to get my north. This guy, I don't know what his deal is, quite frankly. I can change it by typing geo. It goes to geographic location. You want to edit the geographic location. And what you want is you want this stuff to actually be zeroed out. It changes quite a bit, and I have yet to understand how it changes and why it changes, but it does. So if you use that nav cube and you want things to look the right way, zero those out.
It's primarily for 3D modeling.
Correct. But just keep in mind, some people do use this to kind of get their north orientation. I don't know why it does that. I can save this file, close it, reopen it, and it will be screwed up again. So sometimes it holds for a couple days, sometimes it holds for like 10 minutes.
I think it has to do with magnetic north.
There is a magnetic north component based off of your zone. You know, our files are geo-referenced or geolocated, so it does pick that up and does some twist with magnetic north, but in terms of why it sets the X and Y coordinates, I don't know. I wouldn't really use this for any bearing or integer north bearing. Use your UCS and make sure your UCS is always left in world.
When you exit the drawing, please.
Put it in UCS world.
So you're saying to change the layers in your drawings, wouldn't we just update those layers for existing utilities in your base?
You could, but then next time you go into your EXUT, all your utilities would then be the same color. It's very hard to distinguish, you know, drawing your existing telephone if all your lines are the same color.
You don't make them all the same color though, right? You can make them the colors you want.
Correct, but View 5's convention is basically to throw them all at color 22, which isn't really a good convention in my opinion. And so they're kind of set per the colors that are kind of industry standard, kind of NV5 standard. It's just some of them obviously aren't going to plot how you want them to plot. Several of these are going to plot in color. So just set them in your sheet files. Basically, you can almost put any of your EXUT colors to 22 or whatever color you want to plot, whatever you're trying to highlight, depending on which plan you're preparing. All right, the other new template is a pothole template. We do basically a pothole exhibit for every plan, so it would make sense to have a pothole exhibit. It's just to kind of standardize what these look like and how they're done. I've probably got a different opinion on how they should be done than what has historically been done here. Historically speaking, let me go to sheet 2. Historically speaking, you guys would put your plan views together, and then you put these markers in paper space. Why? Why has that been the workflow? Anybody have any good rationale for why put them in paper space versus model space? Anyone?
So you can count them per sheet.
All right. So yes, that is the one advantage of putting your markers in the paper space, is because we do come up down here and we do 2 electrical, 3 telephone, or 3 gas, and we do that per sheet. However, so that's the advantage of putting them in model space. The disadvantages of paper space, the disadvantage of putting them in paper space is they only reside in this one exhibit. You can't utilize them on the rest of your project. So if you throw these markers into model space, you now have the ability to XREF this drawing into the rest of your project and utilize and track these potholes and where they were taken and etc. So, for instance, I did that on a project, sort of nameless project. So here's my markers. It's being XREF'd from my pothole exhibit, and now I've got them in my PRPF. So now you can XREF it into all your base files. So your EXUT C3, that would be great, because now I know that, hey, the pipe I draw here should be using pothole information and not just assumed coordinates. So this information becomes utilized across your project. The other great thing about this and what I did was I created a point wherever I had a pothole sample, called it the pothole number, and then you can project those points to your profile. I had those points create using the existing topography, so they're actually elevated, and then I can project them to my profile so that anytime here I know that, hey, this was a pothole data. So it makes distinguishing what your pothole data versus your assumed data is very easily recognizable, and it will help you. It will help you a lot if you have that data in model space, starting with your pothole exhibit, because then you can utilize that throughout your project design. which has kind of been a missing gap here, I feel, in our design, is that we spend all this money getting pothole data, and then it kind of just fades away, disappears a little bit. It's important to capture that data and use that data in your design. So for that reason, I would recommend pothole exhibit. Those markers should go in your model space. Yes, you do have to count the number of potholes for each utility on each sheet, but come on, that's a 20-minute exercise.
There's also, sometimes let's say you did that and everything's in paper space, like we always do, right? The way I swap it out, I just do that change space command and bada bing, it works like a charm. Pick the viewports and you're good.
So that's actually what I did on this project. I didn't like it in paper space, so I just did a change space on all the layouts, put it into paper space, or model space, and then, hey, now I can reference it on my project.
And the change space, I've done that similarly where I brought things into paper space temporarily to count and then move them back.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's the other option too.
Yeah.
You can always move the data back and forth to help in your counting, but for me, it's easier just to count the dots. There's not usually that many per your sheet.
It's
So
not for pothole exhibits, but
it's a great command. Is everybody familiar with change space? No? So what change space does, we'll create a quick viewport here. And we all love that when that happens, right? Annotative scales, they're wonderful and a bane to my existence. It takes you forever to find where your project actually is, right?
would have been pretty patterns.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty, don't get me wrong. So let's say I've got one of those markers, or I've got line work, or anything drawn in paper space. All right, that's in paper space. I can type CH space, select that object, and now it's in my viewport.
You might want to explain if you have multiple viewports in that sheet.
And you can do the reverse as well. Right now this is in model space. Now back in paper space, that object is now in paper space.
There's a nuance to this. If you have two viewports and by whatever reason you have selected one of the viewports and you're going to the other one and want to change it, then it'll disappear. So you have to make sure it'll ask you what viewport you want to change the space in, and make sure that your UCS within the viewport is set to world. Otherwise, it'll go to.
What used to be active in that viewport. So when you say,
You know, he's talking about when you have multiple people.
okay, yeah, you go between each one, yeah.
Just that's kind of a side thing, but just realize that that's there. I'm working on that pothole template, so you can start using it. Just know that it's not the final version of it. Use it. Give me your suggestions on how you think it should be improved. Title blocks and XREFs. Title blocks. Make sure you, even though most of our deliverables to SDG&E are 22 by 34, make sure in your title block you draw a 24 by 36 outermost boundary. Several reasons for this. I'm not going to cover them all, but just know your title block should be 24 by 36 because that's ultimately what we're going to plot on. And it will help you in terms of managing all the data and block attributes on your paper space. Because the next thing is very important. Anytime you XREF or insert your title block, make sure that it's at 0, 0, 0 of your model space. This is very, very important. Make sure it's inserted at 0, 0, 0. So having that 24 by 36, the lower left-hand corner, that point of that XREF or block should be at 0, 0, 0. I'm going to skip some stuff there. Same with XREFs. Anytime you XREF something into model space, be sure it's at 0, 0, 0. The week that I started putting this agenda together, there were 2 issues inside this office where XREFs were not at 0, 0, 0. Sometimes they get moved. They get moved accidentally. It's fine. It happens to the best of us. So anytime you issue a move command, be careful to not select your XREF. Be very selective in your window selections. Make sure that you're not selecting and highlighting and ultimately moving your XREFs.
Layer lock, layer lock.
So that's if you're not comfortable or don't trust yourself with not moving or not selecting your XREF, you can lock the XREF layer.
You can unload it.
You can also unload all your XREFs. So you can come up here, go to your XR layer, and right there you can lock the layer. When that layer is locked, you can't manipulate any object drawn on it. So if I go back to my model space here, let's find an XREF. Shouldn't be hard. So this is an XREF, right? And you caught me. Should be on the XREF layer, right? You'll notice the minute I switched it to that layer, it became a little faded. It's not as bright. That's because the layer's locked. If I try to select this object and move this object, I can't. You'll notice one was on the locked layer. I can't move it. I can't do anything to it. So if you're uncomfortable moving, or if you know you're going to be selecting and moving a lot, rotating a lot of objects in the drawing, it might be a good idea to lock your XREF layer, or at least unload all your XREFs. Just be aware that if it is your current layer and you start drawing junk lines or random lines, you can't delete those lines because your layer is locked. So just keep that in mind. That's kind of the advantages of having a lock versus the hindrances of having that layer locked.
And you can change the fade factor on that as well.
Yes, you can. Just be sure that main point XREFs should be on the -XR layer, and be sure that they're all at 0, 0. Make sure you don't move them. At any point in time, you can come in here, select your XREF, and since you all have your properties window open on your second monitor, you can come in here and see that your insertion points are 0, 0, 0, and your scales are 1. That's very important information. And this is a good reason to always have your properties window on, so that when you select these things, that you can glance over there and make sure everything in your drawing is correct. You'd be amazed the number of times that I see non-zeros here. And it can be pretty devastating to your drawing sets, especially if it's your PRPF that's being referenced in, and you've set all your viewports based off of that XREF that's moved a little bit. I don't know about you, but I don't want to reset all my viewports on a plan and profile. So make sure your XREFs are 0, 0. Moving right along. A couple new list routines that I just want to show, just to kind of highlight so you know that they're there. This is where all the list routines are. Q, CAD Lib, List 2013. Anything that's being developed or specifically used in this office is in the _ San Diego office. Under here we've got about 70 list routines or so. The two I want to highlight are this viewport lock all viewports. What it will do is it'll actually go through all your layout tabs and lock every single viewport in your drawing. So you can use that if somebody sets up your drawing and doesn't lock all the viewports, or you forget to lock a couple and you start clicking inside, zooming, panning, and you're screwing up all your stuff. You can just load this and run this command. It'll cycle through all your layouts and lock all your viewports. My recommendation, anytime before you use a command like this, save your file. And you may want to time it so that you're going to go take lunch or walk away from your desk. Depending on the complexity of your file, it can take a little bit of time. But it's a lot faster than you sitting there switching layout tabs, selecting all of your viewports, unless you're into that thing. So there's the first command. The second one, I am going to actually load. It's called text match. At least that's what it's named right now. And let's draw some text in this file just for fun.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell I hate locked layers?
Big chip.
So we'll do a couple different things to them. We'll hard set this color. Then we'll add a rotation to this guy. So that text match, TM, to bring the command. And the first thing you want to do is read here, it says all your current settings, list them all off. So you select your source text object, or S for settings. I'm going to hit S for settings just to show you what happens here. These are all the parameters that you can match properties to. This is basically a customizable match properties command. So if I simply do match properties here, let's say I want this text to be this color. If I match properties, it also changes the rotation. It would also change the size of text if I had a different size of text. Alright, so by matching this guy to this guy, I wipe out a lot of that customized properties. Using this TN, go into settings, you can control what you want to match. So let's just say all I want is color. My current settings are just color. So I'm going to select my source and select this guy. So pretty cool. And you can select multiple objects here. So let's say I want color. I'll hold down Control and do height as well. So pretty cool. So that's the second list routine. That's the two that I'm going to cover.
Jarrod,
Yes,
does it stay with the last one, or do you go to settings every time?
it stays with the last one. So if I go back into the command, it remembers the color and height. Since this was the first time it was loaded in this session of AutoCAD, it had them all selected. But it should actually remember it each time you load your list routine.
Jarrod,
Yes.
did you, does that viewport list routine use the same method that we tested with the turning them on and off?
So it is a while back,
What was it called?
viewport lock all VP. A while back, I played around with turning viewports on and off. Main reason for that, if you guys can recall, was the profile of the plane and profile drawings. Those profile viewports take forever and a day to load, right? So there's two ways to kind of speed up that process when switching layout tabs. You can unload your PRPF, or what we were doing for a little bit is trying to isolate those viewports and just turn them off. This on and off list routine, we had mixed results at best. So it is different code altogether. Doesn't quite use the same selections. So it is a little different, but like I said, anytime I'm gonna load a list routine that takes over control of my file, I'm gonna save my file first. So far I've not noticed any issues with the lock all VP, so it should be pretty good.
The main concern was with the on or off thing. Even if you say it before, at one point in time while I was testing it, I was on like sheet 3 or something, but later I learned that one of the viewports on sheet 26 got zoom extended. I didn't notice till a lot later.
Yeah, I don't.
So I want to make sure that you tested this right.
I have tested it, but obviously I can only test it so many times.
Okay.
That's why I'm showing everybody here. You're kind of beta testers as well.
I've been using it, it's been working.
Johnny's been using it quite a bit. Kenny Jack used it. Ivan, did you use it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's, and you know, that was one that was posted on the internet, like most of these. So it's been out in the community for several years. I think that one was written in 2011. Yes, Mark?
There is something that can help with switching between layout tabs. There's a variable that controls caching of your video card. I'll have to look it up, but I don't remember it off the top of my head, but there is one that controls that, and it will save some time if you throw that variable. It's not thrown straight out of the box.
Under your options system, There's also this, layout region options.
That's it, right?
That's okay.
That's the dialog that controls it, but there's an actual variable name you can just type in.
Default was region when switching layout tabs. I've tried to make that the default. It should be the default on everybody's computers, but if you notice, hey, this is going a lot slower than it should when switching layouts. This is one variable that you can check to make sure that you're utilizing. However, that's only going to help you if that was the last layout tab that you were on. It's not necessarily going to speed up the process of going layout tab to layout tab to layout tab. If you get crazy and you're working in that file for a while, you can switch your variable to this one. So it's going to remember all of the layout tabs that you selected versus just the last one.
The other thing you can do is make sure that hardware acceleration is on.
And that icon is
Down
down.
at the bottom.
I can't see it at the angle on that. That guy right there. Like this one is off. Again, the default's been on
It goes
crazy.
off and on all by itself.
So if you are struggling, you can try to turn that on and see if you notice any difference. All right. Survey database, just want to mention real quick. I know it's our favorite thing to discuss here. Just be aware, when people first start using this, they kind of get a little confused. They'll go to this first one and they'll double click on it to open it up. And then you try to import events and you notice, hey, where'd my import events go? I can't do anything. When you double click on this, it opens it for edit or for read only. You'll notice that little red symbol there. That's your clue that it's in read only. So that's kind of the difference between double click and right click and open. So I'm going to close this guy, close survey database. So when you double click, it's open for read only. So if you're making changes to this or you want to import new data, be sure to not double click, to right click and open for edit. Also know something that's pretty interesting. I'm going to open for read only. You can actually import multiple import events into your drawing at the same time. Did anybody know that? Or did you sit there and insert them one by one? You can actually insert multiple import events at the same time. You can't do it from up here. Like even if I'm holding control, I'm only selecting one at a time. So you have to do this each time, right? This is what people are doing. If you click on the import event, just like anytime you use your tool space, if you click on the parent, all your children of that said category appear down below here. Here, you can always select multiple. And then you can insert them into your drawing.
But only if you right click.
But only if you right click.
Double clicking does nothing except fire off just that one.
So that's a cool way of importing multiple import events into your drawing all at once.
Now, isn't that just inserting them into the drawing?
Correct.
Rather than
Creating them?
import events?
Yeah, you have to create your import events separately because you're going to be pointing to specific CSV files. If you want to import all of your import events into your drawing, you don't necessarily have to go down here to do that. You can just do it from here. You can click on your main import events and insert into drawing. It will insert all your import events into your drawing. A quick note on, I want to close out of some of this stuff. When you use points and you're looking to create break lines or feature lines, be sure that you change your point marker style to the elevated X. So the reason why that is important, we'll just go ahead and create a couple points in here. We'll just create a manual point. We'll give it an elevation of 100. And we'll give another point here. We'll give it an elevation of 200. Alright, so there are my 2 points. So the style is default. I'm going to just put it on basic X, that guy, just to make sure that I know what's going on. Alright, so now, let's say I create a feature line. So grading, draw feature line. Yeah, that's good. We'll give names and stuff, right? And even if I snap to the node of this guy, what elevation is it?
0.
It's picking 0, right? So I'd have to look at my point, type in the elevation.
That's if it's showing.
Go to the next one. That's my elevation. Still thinks it's 100. So then we'd sit here and type 200. There's a better way, right? Hopefully we all know this, but I ran into this case where somebody, not actually in this office, fortunately, developed a whole EXTO with all the points at with that basic X, not elevated point style, and sat there and typed in every single elevation that was shot on the entire job. I just look at that and go, oh my gosh, my hand's sore just thinking about that. But you can count the number of hours that were wasted by doing that. So, make sure that your point style is set to an elevated marker style. And now when we draw our feature line, I snap to the node, elevation 100. It reads the elevation. So node, elevation 200. It picks it up because the point is elevated. So make sure if you're creating feature lines or creating break lines, make sure that your point marker is on the elevated point style. That has the potential of saving you a lot of trouble. Yes, Mark?
There is other ways, and like in all things in AutoCAD, there's probably 10 different ways to do things. But there is a set of holdover commands from
Soft desk,
yeah, it holds over from Sofdesk.
Yeah.
Or 14?
No, actually, DOS 10, DOS 12. It is a point P. So a period P will bring up the point command, which allows you to actually pick the points off the thing, or point G, or point P actually allows you to enter the point.
Point G is
Point G actually allows you to pick up the point.
You see it on the feature, the other feature menu, it brings up a dialog box. So right now, the other one, there's that one, yeah.
Oh, under point? Or?
Feature line there.
Yeah, new feature line.
Feature line, create, I can't see it, but objects.
Yeah,
Objects. Right, where's the dialog box, Mark? It brings a dialog box up where you can select the point. It should do anyway.
Yeah, it's right there. It's
I don't see it.
It's right there in the prospector.
Okay, so point P, point G.
No, it's over the prospector right there, broadcast.
Oh, this guy here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just one of those.
Yeah, one of those, the second one from the right, I believe it is. I believe it is that one. No, again, move on. It's one of those anyway.
Anyway,
Yeah, and that picks a point.
the easy way is to just put your points.
Yeah, but that way you don't have to switch any of the points. You know, it picks up the actual point number.
Switching your points is real easy. Just make a change to your all points groups, point group.
Like I said, there's 10 different ways, which I
So-
can find fast.
So just be aware of that. All right, moving on.
Hey Jared.
Yes, sir.
Using a 3D will work? You
Using
have
what?
to adjust all those settings?
What's that?
Just draw a 3D.
Drawing
A 3D polyline.
3D polyline.
Without, you don't have to do all those settings.
Only if it's an elevated point.
Yeah, it still has to be an elevated point.
Oh,
Still has to be an elevated point, otherwise it's still gonna pick up. Same
Well,
concept.
I would assume all the points are elevated from the surveyor.
Oh, no, there's different things there. Even though, like when I created this point, I created it with an elevation of 200.
Yeah.
But if the point style is just a basic X, and I click to that node, it is not gonna use that elevation to draw my object. Like right now, it's on my elevated point style. If I create just a polyline with that node, I click on this guy, my elevation is 200.
That's fine, because you created it.
Because this is on the elevated point style. Typically, we're on the basic X, right? I'm going to delete these guys real quick. If I draw a polyline off of that node,
No, 3D point.
0 elevation. Even if I create a 3D polyline or feature line, it's the same thing. It doesn't pick up that elevation.
That 3D point takes the elevation.
Do it.
Do it.
Right.
We're there.
Just type 3D.
I could be wrong. Z0.
Wrong.
Your point marker has to be using the elevated point marker. That's why I'm covering it. I didn't create it. It's a 3D polyline. Yeah, so make sure that your point markers are on the elevated style. Couple quick things left. Couple updates to blocks. On electrical, there's a couple of different things to note. You now have some vaults with this kind of the standard typical trench layouts pre-drawn for you. So you can use those guys. Save you some time and hassle of drawing those around. Obviously, you may want to explode that and tweak it a little bit. So these blocks are explodable. You can explode blocks. You can explode this one block. Don't get all excited. This one block. This one block. And you'll notice that if you try to explode my vault box, you still can't. So don't get too carried away with your explode command there. But the block, this large parent block itself, can be exploded so that you could manipulate the line work if you needed to. Oh, and see, this one isn't for some reason. The other thing that you'll notice if you're being astute is this bottom one has a little extra line around it. That dashed line is for your traffic rated lid, which we have never really shown here in V5 for one reason or another. We have always used this standard block. Your traffic rated lid is 3 inches larger than your vault all the way around. Typically it's not going to cause you issues, but let's say in the case that I just did, I put this vault right up against my lip of gutter. If I don't have that traffic rated lid drawn correctly, when I go and stake this, I'm going to be 3 inches into that gutter. That's an issue. We could get back charged for doing Lord knows what. So, with that in mind, you'll see new blocks for traffic rated lids. And to they're in the template file here. So you'll see that we have kind of your standard vault here, which would be your parkway cover, which quite frankly we don't use much, if at all, in this office. And then you'll see this block, which is the same block name but underscore traffic. Alright, so be sure to use those traffic blocks, especially when you're putting your vaults right up against existing or proposed planimetrics. So they're in the template file. They're also in your tool palette if you load a new tool palette. So I don't know why. This is one of the hardest things for me to control is the tool palette on individual computers, and even the display of it is very difficult to control. So you'll notice that things don't quite look right on this. They got pushed down here. So you'll notice that they're all here. You got your parkway, your traffic, and you got your parkway and traffic with the trench, standard trench layouts. And if you were astute, you'll notice that you also have 3 new blocks here. These are your pole box blocks. pull box, typically located within substations. So we've used these in the past, so just know that they are now part of our library as well. So little guys, 3x4s, 4x6, etc., etc. So those are now available for you as well. The other thing I wanted to mention is those in the distribution group. If you click on your 69, 138, and 230 volts, you'll notice that there are a couple more grips than you're used to seeing. These two grips here are flip parameters for your manhole or your handhole. So right now it's in this corner. Let's say I need it to be in this corner. Let's say I need it to be in that corner. So you now have flip parameters for your handle. So all 4 parameters there, so you can keep this as one standard block and still have that customization of where that handle goes. For my friends in the civil group, Rip. Oh, anybody? Did they leave? Oh, screw that. I don't get the goods then. What you'll notice I don't see it. There it is. There it is. I knew it was here. We now have a block for a slope carrot.
Nobody looks at that yet.
Gary used this in one of his existing topos. So yeah, obviously this is a slope carrot on steroids because you see all these grips. So it's a dynamic block. All these have stretch parameters to them, so you can go to your top of slope. If you need this to be a little bit larger, that all goes. If you need your tail to go to your toe, that goes. If you need to rotate it, boom. All right, so full slope carrot, all dynamic, make it look good. And I guess that's all we're gonna cover. I'll cover one more. Anybody interested in staying for a little bit? Or are you guys done? Always interested. Alright. Since this is like the most important topic, I'll cover it.
You're gonna cut it out, the most important?
I'm gonna cover it today and next time, because I want to beat this into everybody. If there was one thing we could do as a company to make ourselves more productive and more efficient, this would be the one tool that needs to be implemented. It's been around the industry for many, many years. Some engineers, some drafters just never use it. No idea what. So, to that point, TV template, gone. I'm going to open up 2 drawings. Anybody have a guess on what I'm about to cover?
Naming convention?
No.
I thought you were gonna go over that.
It's not very important.
That's not important. That's not exciting. That's
No,
not,
I actually,
it's
well,
not
when
sexy.
I get
Come on.
errors on all my jobs.
So what I'm going to open up is this sheet set. There it is. How many people have never created a sheet set? Raise your hand. Right. Awesome. Line them up. That wall will be now known as the red wall, but for a different reason. All right. Why is sheet set so important? Because we can utilize it for just about everything that we do in a production point of view. Let's say I need to plot my entire sheet set. The last thing I want to do is open 30 different files, plot 30 different layout tabs. Last thing I would ever want to do as a drafter is enter this number of what sheet I currently am. Last thing I'd ever want to do as a drafter is put my match line sheet number in there. Because I know that my project manager is going to insert a sheet in the middle of my set, and I'm going to have to then go through and change all these, right? How many times has that happened to you? More than I can count. And that change, of course, always happens at the 12th hour, right after he says, hey, I need a new set of sheets, right? So what if I told you there was a way where we could have all that happen with basically a click of a button? That'd be pretty cool, right? Well, you can't, using SheetSet. So a lot of times we think of SheetSet as just a way of plotting. What I'm saying is it is much more than just plotting utility. That's how it got its start, but we can utilize just so much information using the SheetSet. So we're going to create one real quick. We're just going to go new SheetSet. So if you don't have, let me back up. If you don't have this box open, you can find it a couple different ways. It does actually appear up here. You can add it, SheetSet Manager. And of course, I'm like finding space. So it's there. Or you can just type SheetSet. Comes up either way. So we'll create a new SheetSet. We want to create it from existing drawings. We'll give it a name. Typically it would be your project. A description, your name, date, etc. Most important thing, where you want to store the SheetSet data. If you ever set this to your C drive, I will personally come hunt you down. Right? So I will warn you now, never set this to your C drive. It will cripple us as a company. Alright? Just flat out. So where do we store them? We store them where we store our files that we're creating this from. So mine are under my G drive, AutoCAD Lunch and Learn, AutoCAD files. That's where my files are, so that's where I'm going to store my SheetSet. Alright, so I'm going to browse, and I'm going to go to my files. And it's that folder that I'm going to add. So what this does is it picks up every AutoCAD drawing in that folder and every layout tab inside every drawing. I'm not interested in all these, so I'm going to uncheck a couple. I'm going to uncheck these bottoms ones. I'm just interested in these two files and those layout tabs. 1 through 6 basically is what I have in this practice SheetSet. Next, and then finish. Alright, so now I have this wonderful thing here. Shows all my files, and they're actually in order already. That's layout 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're in the right order. So at any point in time I can come here and go publish dialog box just for fun. And then I can print my entire plan set. This is from 2 files, right? You can imagine if I had 20 different files, if I had 80 pages, you can see how this saves you a lot of time. Now the cool thing is, that's pretty cool, right? That alone can save us a lot of time just opening and plotting. Hey guys, keep the talk to a minimum, please. But let's actually use some of this data, right? So right now we'll take this guy right here. This is actually an attribute inside the block, so it's actually a little bit complicated, but we can open it up. And while this is an attribute, I can still basically convert it to use a field. That's what I'm after. I want to create a field that's going to read this data, the data inside my SheetSet. So before we get to that, I'll just create a field, typing field, and you can see there's all kinds of things I can add as a field. What I'm interested in, current sheet number. Alright, current sheet number it is. So I'll put that there. So it's 1. Alright, so let's say I don't have to create on each sheet, you can't copy them, it's just a field. And it says 1, right? As soon as I regen it, reads the current layout tab. So now it says 2. So you can see, wow, that's going to save me a lot of time, right? So cool. Well, I could do the same thing to these. That could be a field there, and I can have it read current sheet +1, current sheet -1. So now all my match lines are done, my current sheet is done, right? Very cool. So you never should need to manually type in any sheet number, is what I'm telling you guys. That can all be a field, +1, -2, whatever you need to do.
Do you recommend using SheetSet also to input station for the stations for the mesh lines?
possibilities are endless on sheet set. Like I said, the way we populate the information is using a field, right? You can see the amount of data available to you. You can have it read.
You can add
From this pull down, these are all the ones that are predefined by AutoCAD. You can get into custom coding, you can do all kinds of things. But if I just did sheet set, this is everything, all the built-in properties of the sheet set that you can utilize. Sheet category, sheet custom, description, purpose, number and title, revision date, custom set, project milestone, all these different things. Would I recommend it? Probably not. Just from my experience, it doesn't necessarily go very well. Because anytime that station changes, I also need to change my viewport limits. So I do want that to almost force me to take action versus having the station be automatic. I probably won't remember to adjust my limits of my viewport
over at the properties.
over at the properties. So, I mean, yes and no. You would have to use it with caution, and I don't want to
Viewport fields.
I don't want to distribute that on everybody. I think we need to learn to walk or crawl before we run. So this is kind of the crawling stages of, hey, let's just be sure to replace our current set sheet number and our match line sheet number with these fields from our sheet set. Cool? So to make it even more complex for you guys, this typically is not just a piece of text or a field. It's part of our block, right? We have a block with all kinds of information there. Not only just, not just the sheet number, but it could be a lot of other information here. You can create a field inside a block attribute, and it's actually a lot easier than what you would think. Right now, I know that this is just text. The way I know that is, I don't even have to go into block editor and look at the definition or how it was defined. I can just tell you right now, based off of this just being a default number. So I can come in here, highlight this default, right click, insert field, right? That's what we're after. Current sheet number, perfect. And we'll see if it took, I don't know if it does or not. That one you may have to actually reopen the file, I forget. But obviously it's better if things are set up right from square one before you start populating data. If you want, you could get rid of that and just use your field, nothing wrong with that. But it would be a lot better if that was built into your block to begin with. And the title block should have it as a field. Can't quite remember, but that's why I want to show you guys so that I can make changes to our title blocks, templates, and whatnot so that they use fields reading from your sheet set. And for that to happen, everybody here needs to know how to create that sheet set. Otherwise, that's just going to be 4 number signs.
Jarrod,
It's not defined.
I have one real quick, probably simple question. I see in your sheet set you have 6 sheets up there, yet 3 at the bottom.
From another.
So these first 3 have that little lock symbol because I actually have that file open. First, these 3 drawing layout tabs are actually from a second drawing that I don't even have open. But I can still plot them, I can still use the data. That's the great thing about it, is your sheet set almost becomes a data manager. You can use all kinds of data in here. And so let's say that project, your favorite project manager comes to you, adds a sheet into your sheet set, right? I'm just going to import a layout as a sheet. Browse for drawing. I'm going to go back to, hate double click. Does that know me? And just for fun, I'm going to add this guy. Why not? Alright, so it gets added. Let's say this is now my sheet 2. So I'm going to move it up right? And then the only thing I need to do is I need to renumber my sheets. So if I right click, go rename and renumber, there's a sheet 1, so that's fine. Go to next. That's going to be now sheet 2. And it needs to get renamed, right? And I'm just going to hit OK. I don't need to sit here and do all of them. So this was sheet 2. It's now sheet 3. Whoa, mind blown, right? So there's no need to ever enter in that sheet number text ever again. Hallelujah. All right, cool. So that's all. If you guys have questions, I'll be around. I'll stick around.
Thank you.